Okay.
Yep, sorry, just having a little, there we go. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the Montgomery County House Delegation meeting for Friday, February 11th. In addition to our usual business, we have a couple of briefings this morning with the universities at Shady Grove and then the Department of Legislative Services for the local fiscal briefing. And we're also joined this morning by two pages serving in the House this week. I want to shout them out. Rebecca Zhu, I apologize for mangling your last name, from District 15, Churchill High School, and Nikita Balajapali from District 15 also, and Clarksburg High School. So thank you both for being with us and for helping out in the General Assembly this week. With that, colleagues, we are joined this morning by the universities at Shady Grove, including the chair of the Universities at Shady Grove Board of Advisors, District 16's Shirley Brandman. So let me turn it over to Shirley to bring us through USG's presentation and who else they have with them here. Shirley.
Terrific. Thank you so much. Greetings to the members of the delegation. We are meeting virtually where we would all prefer to be meeting in person. This is our USG Student Advocacy Day. I'm going to very briefly set the stage and then allow students to introduce themselves to you. You're going to have the pleasure of hearing from our Student Council President and brief closing remarks by my colleague and former State Senator PJ Hogan. As Mark said, I'm the very proud chair of the Board of Advisors. A shout out to the delegation representatives who serve on our board, Delegate Ann Kaiser and Senator Nancy King, who are terrific colleagues. And I bring regrets on behalf of Dr. Ann Kademian, our executive director, who very much wanted to be here, but was invited by the regents and Chancellor Perman to present on the USG strategic plan. So let me briefly set the stage. We meet with you today at a really important moment. We hope you've received from us the new USG strategic plan, the vision for USG 2.0. I'm not going to spend time on it today because today is about the students, but I hope you'll get a chance to look at it because what's critical about it is a really dedicated laser focus to career readiness, holding ourselves accountable, not just for students completing their degree, but really connecting them to the opportunities in the workforce of their future and setting USG on a course for the future on a sustainable fiscal model. I share this with you because next year USG will be back in front of you with the ask that it's going to take to implement that future vision in the service of not only our students, but truthfully the workforce of our county, the region, and the state. Today, what I want to do is to thank you. Thank you because I trust that you will support the governor's funding for the USM budget and the important investment in restoration for operations for USG and our partner universities. Especially thankful from the staff and the faculty for the provided salary increases after several years of stagnation in employee compensation. And from USG, also a quick but heartfelt thank you for the work on giving us our separate budget code. Shout out to delegates Solomon and Corman for your help on that in particular, because it will allow us at USG to really be able to show the need that there is for the work that we do, serving an incredibly diverse workforce of the future. So I wanted to then just now turn over to our students. What we've asked them to do is to briefly introduce themselves. We just want to give you a sense of the array of institutions and degrees. We're going to proceed alphabetically. The students are literally just going to tell you their name, their degree program, and their institution. And then without further ado, I'm going to invite our Student Council President to speak to you. So let's begin. Alyssa.
Hi, everyone. My name is Alyssa, and I am a second semester graduate student studying human development with the University of Maryland College Park at USG.
Hi, everyone. I am Dana Wilson, and I go to UMBC at Shady Grove campus. I study social work, and my minor is psychology, and I represent UMDC at large.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Diane Dow. I am a nursing major with the University of Maryland, Baltimore at the University of Shady Grove. I am representing Salisbury University at a large member.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Elise Choi. I'm part of University of Maryland, Baltimore. I'm in the nursing program. It's my third semester, and I also represent Salisbury.
I'm going to call out for Elise Rodriguez or Emily Samuels.
Oh, sorry, I was muted by accident. Sorry about that. Hello, my name is Elise Marie Rodriguez. I'm a fourth semester BSN student at the University of Maryland School of Nursing, and I graduate this upcoming May. I am the University of Baltimore at-large representative.
Hi, everyone. My name is Emily Samuels. I'm a second semester graduate student in the Masters of Data Science program with UMBC at the University of Shady Grove campus. And I also attended USG for my undergrad in biological sciences with University of Maryland College Park.
Hello, my name is Emma Ernest. I'm a social work major at the University of UMBC at the universities at Shady Grove, and I will be graduating May 2022.
Hello, my name is Giselle Gonzalez. I am from UMBC, representative of USG at UMBC as well.
Hi, my name is Irina Ryan. I study hospitality management at the Universities of Maryland Eastern Shore, and I also represent the Universities of Maryland Eastern Shore.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Jasmine Hill, and I'm in the marketing program at the University of Maryland College Park. I graduate this May, and within the Student Council, I represent the University of Baltimore at large.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Jennifer Ramirez Davrash. I'm an accounting student at the University of Maryland, and I'm also the chair of events and initiatives at the Student Council, and I represent University of Maryland Global Campus.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Julia Vila Zavala. I am a UMBC student, social work and psychology double major, and looking to graduate May of 2022, upcoming. And I am one of two UMBC representatives on the Student Council.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Kadeen Solomon. I'm an elementary ed major and special ed major at Towson University at USG. I represent Towson University at USG, and I graduate in May.
Hello, everyone. My name is Keong Park. I attend the University of Maryland, Baltimore, and I am studying to become a nurse by getting my BSN at USG, and I represent the University of Maryland, Baltimore on the Student Council. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. My name is Taylor Mojica. I am a hospitality management major at University of Maryland Eastern Shore, and I represent University of Maryland Eastern Shore.
And we have one more student who's actually going to share some remarks on behalf of the wonderful students arrayed here and all of them at Shady Grove, Fatima Zuhal Kasimi, who is the USG Student Council President. I'm very proud to invite her to share some words.
Thank you, Ms. Brenman, and good morning, members of the delegation. As Ms. Brenman said, my name is Fatima Zohal Kasimi. I am a senior in the University of Maryland Biological Sciences program at USG. I also have the honor of serving this year as the USG Student Council President, representing my fellow students from 9 different universities with programs at the USG campus. I'm here with my fellow student leaders to say thank you for the support you gave to USG and to urge you to keep investing in our campus and our students. I want to briefly share my personal story so you can see how important USG really is to student success. I grew up in Afghanistan, a country where civilian men, women, children are killed, kidnapped, injured, or unlawfully arrested by insurgent groups on a daily basis, and where women do not have the same rights and opportunities as men. As a girl who belongs to an ethnic minority in Afghanistan, discrimination and violence impeded my ability to learn and become a productive member of the society. Growing up in Kabul tested both my bravery and optimism. While I was in 6th grade, a suicide bomber tried to attack my school. This man targeted our school because it was an all-female institution, and many insurgent groups such as the Taliban are against women's education in Afghanistan. I left school that day unharmed and the attacker was caught, but other children in many other instances have not been as fortunate as I was. threats by insurgents to shut down all female schools were constant, and I witnessed many women and girls in my community succumb to multiple forms of violence, including domestic violence, forced marriages, and child marriages. Unfortunately, perpetrators often got away with impunity, even when there were multiple witnesses. As you know, the situation now is even worse in Afghanistan than the time I was there. In 2013, my family was lucky to have an opportunity to come to the US where I could study in safety. Coming to America was a dream come true. As a newcomer, of course, there were challenges, but I overcame them and completed high school on an accelerated track. So 4 years of high school in just 3 years. After graduating Woodrow Wilson High School, I decided to attend Montgomery College, although I had multiple acceptances from different universities. I got my associate's degree from MC before transferring to UMD, and now I am excited to be graduating in May with my bachelor's degree from the University of Maryland, all as a student at USG. My plan after graduation is to go to optometry school. The main reason I decided to take the 2+2 pathway from MC to USG is because it is affordable and convenient to commute. When I graduated from high school in 2000, when I graduated high school, I was only 16 years old and not mature enough to live on campus. Also, not being a US citizen or a permanent resident means that I don't qualify for financial aid and certain scholarships. So the 2+2 pathway is very economical. Going from MC to USG allowed me to have a school and work balance. I can work while attending classes and save money to pay my tuition. Also, at USG, there's a low student to teacher ratio. So I have benefited so much from getting individualized attention and better support from my professors and advisors. And also being first in my family to major in biological sciences meant that I had to figure out most things as I go along. I spent months researching internship opportunities that I could apply to. It was very discouraging when my status meant that I was not eligible for some scholarships or internships. But thanks to having access to both my home campus resources and the USG student services, I have been able to connect to alumni, gotten the perfect internship, and my advisor has helped me select classes, so I am on track for graduation. I am so proud to be earning my degree from University of Maryland College Park, but I am beyond thankful that I was able to do so close to home at USG. Thank you for continuing to support USG and my fellow students and those who will follow us. In doing so, you're opening opportunities and doors for a better life. Thank you.
And I guess I'll wrap up. This is PJ Hogan, Chairman Corman, members of the House delegation, and Senator Kramer. I think he's the only Senate member I see here. Thank you for this opportunity. And while we would love to be meeting in person, I have to tell you, looking at this screen, it's amazing. It's actually almost better because I can look and see the faces of all the students that by your support for USG, you've enabled them to get a higher education. That just, you can hear their story, you know, Juhal's story and others. They would not be able to pursue their degree if it was not for USG. It is you. And I know there are a lot of people that say, well, Montgomery County should have a 4-year university in its, you know, in the county. I submit to you that this is so much better. If you listen to each of these students and introduce themselves and the programs they're in, a single university would not be able to offer all the variety and depth and breadth of programs that these students are pursuing, and they're able to do it right in Montgomery County. It is a unique model. We're 20 years old and growing. You have made the investments from a physical standpoint. Thank God the budget, the operational budget cuts that were made in previous years have been restored. And now having a separate budget code just for the universities at Shady Grove will help to highlight the investments that are made there going forward. We will no longer be, for lack of another term, a a minor piece within the USM office budget. So I thank you very much for your support. Hope you will support the funding that's in this budget, and that when you have some time, maybe after session, read the new strategic plan, USG 2.0. You will see where we want to go in the future. And I can't thank you enough for your support, and hope that you see these are the faces of Montgomery County's future and what you have done by enabling USG to offer higher education at home. So thank you very much. I want to turn it over, kind of have a dialogue. If any students want to ask any questions, if any of the legislators want to ask questions, please do.
Great. Thanks, PJ. Let me also shout out Senator Kagan and Senator Zucker, who are also here on the Senate side. Don't want you to get in trouble with them later.
Thank you.
Let me first recognize USG's own Delegate Gabe Acevero. Delegate Acevero.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and good morning, colleagues. I just wanted to take a moment to thank all of the students, all of the USG students for testifying, for sharing your stories this morning. I see so much of myself in you because at one point, I was in the same position, and so USG did for me what it is doing for you now, and no doubt will continue to do for all the students that matriculate through its halls. So thank you all so very much. Thank you to the folks who just continue to do the work to make the universities at Shady Grove grow in our county. I went to UMBC and I was able to earn my degree at the universities at Shady Grove, and it was an excellent campus, and I'm glad to see this kind of intentional investment, and I hope it continues because as PJ Hogan mentioned, I mean, this is an asset, and it's an asset that we not only have to recognize, but ensure that we're continuing to invest in, so we're getting a return on that. And based on the testimonies this morning from all of the students, and thank you again, we're seeing that return on investment. So thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Delegate Acevero. I should also note that Senator King has also joined us, and she was shouted out earlier for her work with USG. Any other questions or comments from the legislators on the call? Okay, well, thank you again, PJ and Shirley, but more importantly, thank you to all the students for taking a few minutes to share your stories with us and what you're doing. We appreciate hearing from you, and it really is a great resource in Montgomery County that frankly I didn't know much about before I was in the legislature, other than it was some nice big buildings. I didn't realize the diversity of programming that was happening there from all around the state. So it's definitely a great resource, and thank you all for being here. Colleagues, will now turn to our annual local fiscal briefing, which I know Senator Hogan will want to stay on for. I know he misses it. We have the Department of Legislative Services. Hiram Birch will give us our briefing.
Good morning. With me today is Valerie Monroe. She's actually going to be giving you an update later on education funding for Montgomery County. And so we're going to work through a presentation document I think we shared with you earlier this week. And I think Valerie is going to share it on the screen so everyone can see it. Okay, great. If you turn to page 1, it shows that state aid accounts for a very large portion of the state budget. It's around 35% of general fund expenditures and 26% of all state funds. And when you put that into perspective, funding for all state agencies accounts for around 41% of general funds, and entitlement payments account for around 22%. So the state support for local governments remains fairly strong. If you turn to page 2, it shows state aid by governmental entity for fiscal 23. And you can see that most of the state aid is targeted to public schools. They will receive around $7.1 billion. County and municipal governments receive less than 10% of the state aid, or around $841 million. Overall, state aid will total around $9.2 billion, which is a $383 million increase, or 4.3% increase over the prior year. If you turn to page 3, it shows the amount of state aid provided to each local government. And here you can see that Montgomery County will receive nearly $1.2 billion in state funding. Of this amount, around 989 million is direct aid, which goes directly to the local government, and around $166 million is for teachers' retirement payments. Funding for Montgomery County will go up by 4.4% this year, which represents a $48 million increase. If you turn to page 4, it kind of breaks down the state funding by unit of local government. You can see that the county government and the municipalities within Montgomery County would get around $41 million. The community college system would get around $71 million. The public school system, $868 million. The local library system, $3.6 million. And the health department, around $5 million. Skipping to page 9, shows the proposed enhancements to public school funding in FY23. The administration has provided an additional $57.3 million in hold harmless grants under the compensatory aid program to offset declines in the free and reduced price meal count. Montgomery County will receive around $18.2 million in these grants. The administration has also provided an additional $68.1 million in funding for full-day pre-kindergarten programs, which exceeded the requirements of the Blueprint Plan. Of these funds, Montgomery County would get an additional $6.5 million. However, the additional discretionary enhancements to education aid are offset by the administration's underfunding of the Education Effort Index. And these funds provided $99 million to Baltimore City and $26.5 million to Prince George's County. Pages 10 through 12 show state aid trends by governmental unit over the last 10 years. Now we're going to shift to page 14, where we start focusing on some of the specific programs that are provided to the county and municipal governments. You can see on page 14 that Montgomery County will get around $16.3 million in funding under the existing police aid formula. Page 15 shows the primary factors that drives police aid, and most of the funding is based on population density and county population. Around 4% of the funding is based on the number of municipal sworn officers. If you turn to page 16, it shows that the governor has proposed to enhance funding for the police aid program. And this is around $45.9 million in additional funding. The allocation is based on increasing the per capita grant amount by over $6 per person, and also enhancing the municipal sworn officers program by providing a nearly $1,000 grant per municipal sworn officer. Montgomery County will receive around $7 million in funding under this proposal. Page 17 shows funding for the targeted crime grants, and you can see that Baltimore City and Prince George's County receive specific funding under the program, but Montgomery County can receive funding under the statewide initiatives. Page 19 provides information on the amount of funding provided under the Fire and Rescue Aid Program. And here, Montgomery County would get around $1.9 million. Page 20 provides information on funding for the local health departments. Statewide, funding is up by $1 million for a total of $74.9 million. Montgomery County will receive around $5 million of the program. And finally, we turn to page 24. It shows the allocation of local highway user revenues in FY23. Montgomery County will receive around $15.3 million. Of this amount, $8.8 million will go to the county government, and $6.5 million will go to the municipalities. And funding for the counties and municipal governments are based on each jurisdiction's share of road knowledge and voter and vehicle registration. I'm now going to turn the presentation over to Valerie, who came on board with DLS this past interim, and she has become an integral part of our local fiscal and state aid team. And she is going to provide you with some information affecting education funding for Montgomery County. Okay, Valerie?
Good morning. Greetings to the members of the delegation. Thank you, Hiram. So if you turn to page 31, this page shows the total level of state funding for public schools in fiscal 23. State aid to Montgomery County Public Schools will total $1 billion. On page 32, this breaks the funding down by direct aid and teacher retirement payments. Montgomery County Public Schools will receive $868.4 million in direct aid, which goes directly to the public school system, and $153.2 million for teachers' retirement payments, which goes to the state retirement agency. On a per pupil basis, direct aid from Montgomery County totals $5,624, which is the third lowest amount in the state. This ranking is due to the fact that 75% of direct education aid is allocated based on local wealth. As we will show later in the presentation, Montgomery County has the fourth highest per pupil local wealth measure in the state. On page 33, this shows the percent increase in per pupil direct aid and per pupil total aid. For Montgomery County, per pupil direct education aid increases by 5.9% in fiscal 23, compared to the statewide average of 5.4%. Total per pupil education increases by 4.3%, which is close to the statewide average of 4.2%. On page 34, this shows the primary factors that drive the increases in education aid, which is the student enrollment and local wealth. Full-time equivalent student enrollment in Montgomery County decreases by 1.5%, and this is the sixth highest decrease in the state. Local wealth per pupil increases by 2.9%, and this is the 10th highest increase in the state. The combination of the two factors results in Montgomery County realizing an average increase in education aid. On a comparative basis, if we take a look at Frederick County, we will see that they have the highest student enrollment growth and the second lowest increase in local wealth, and they realize the highest increase in education aid. Garrett County has the highest decrease in student enrollment and the fourth highest increase in local wealth, and they realize the lowest growth in education aid. Page 35 shows the level of state aid under the foundation program, which is the main education funding formula. As you would see, Montgomery County received $424.7 million under the foundation program and $42.3 million under the geographic cost index. Montgomery County will receive $38.8 million, including $8.7 million for concentration. This is on page 36, sorry. So Montgomery County will receive $38.8 million, including $8.7 million for concentration of poverty grants, $12.5 million for full-day pre-kindergarten, and $5 million for supplemental instruction. On page 37, this shows the level of state aid for targeted student populations. Montgomery County will receive $286.9 million in funding in fiscal 23. Of this amount, $133.8 million is for compensatory aid, which is based on the free and reduced price meal count. $94.7 million is for English language learners. $58.4 million is for special education. Page 38, this page shows the factors driving funding for targeted education programs. A higher targeted student index and a lower local wealth per pupil measure generates the greatest amount of funding per pupil. Montgomery County has the 12th highest targeted student index and the 4th highest local wealth per pupil measure. This results in the 14th highest per pupil funding level at $1,858 compared to the statewide average of $2,495. If we turn to page 39, this shows how the targeted student index is calculated. It's basically a combination of the percent share of total student enrollment from the 3 targeted student populations. Since a student can be in more than one targeted group, a school system can have an index that exceeds 100%, as in the case of Baltimore County, which has an index of 116%. The next few pages, that's page 40 through 45, shows how local wealth is calculated and how each local school system compares with a statewide average. We will now turn our attention to page 46, and this shows the change in full-time equivalent enrollment. The full-time equivalent student enrollment count decreases by 1.5% in Montgomery County compared to the statewide average decrease of 0.7%. This results in 2,329 fewer students for the Montgomery County public school system. Currently, the county school system accounts for approximately 18.2% of students statewide. Page 47 shows the number of students approved for free and reduced price meals. The number of students approved for free and reduced price meals decreases by 16.3% in Montgomery County compared to the statewide average decrease of 6.9%. Montgomery County currently has the 18th highest percentage of students approved for the free and reduced price meals, at 25.3% of total student enrollment. Page 48 shows the number of students identified as English language learners. Montgomery County, as you would observe, has the second highest percentage of students identified as English language learners at 18.4% of the total student enrollment. In fiscal 23, the number of English language learners students increased by 8%, resulting in 2,112 additional students requiring language services. Page 39 shows the number of students receiving special education services. Montgomery County has a relatively higher share of students receiving special education services. In fiscal 23, the number of students receiving special education services accounts for 13.2% of total enrollment compared to the statewide average of 12.8%. On page 50, this shows public school enrollment as a share of total county population. Statewide, public school enrollment represents 13.7% of the total state population. In Montgomery County, public school enrollment represents 14.5% of the overall county population, and this is the 7th highest in the state. Public school enrollment as a share of total county population ranges from 8.9% in Kent County to 16.8% in Howard County. On page 51, this shows the racial composition for each local school system. Montgomery County has one of the most diverse school systems in the state. No one racial or ethnic group comprises a majority of students. The Hispanic Latino students comprises the largest racial ethnic group with nearly 1/3 of students. Here ends our presentation, and I'll hand it back over to Hiram. Thank you.
Okay. And we're open for any questions you may have. And we will be providing you with a summary document that summarizes our speaking points later today, along with a reference guide that kind of shows you how you can access all of our state aid and local government materials on the DLS website. So that should be coming probably by the end of the day today.
Thank you. We appreciate it. Colleagues, please use the raise hand function if you have any questions. While we're waiting for people to think about it, I'll ask a question. Has DLS run the blueprint or other formula numbers based on the student population hold harmless that was done last year? in the governor's budget, which is different than what's being done this year. Obviously, the compensatory hold harmless is very important in Montgomery County, but that's just part of the picture. As DLS looked at what the formulas would have looked like with a sort of non-COVID population.
Right. I can look into that. I don't, right now, I don't think we have done that, but I will see whether or not we can actually do that.
Okay. Let me ask another question while I'm waiting to see if any of my, let me turn to Delegate Solomon.
Oh, that's very kind of you, Mr. Chair. Hiram, thank you for the presentation. Valerie, thank you as well. Sort of similar to Delegate Corman's question, I know there are some concerns over the free and reduced meal calculation as well, because of the concern that families weren't able to complete the form. Has DLS run any calculations based on assuming what the percentage would have been based on previous years, as opposed to potentially what happened with the problems with the forms?
Right. Once again, we'll have our education aid analysts look into that. I don't know whether or not we did actually run statewide numbers when we did our baseline projections, and we can see that what was provided in the governor's allowance was much lower than our baseline numbers. So we definitely have those numbers, and we'll share it with the delegation.
Great, thank you very much.
Thank you, Delegate Solomon. Well, I'm waiting to see if anybody else has a question. Hiram, I don't know if you want to speak about it, but you all issued a report recently about the local fiscal impact of the blueprint, including on Montgomery County. I don't know if you want to share with folks any of the information there. I appreciate that you may not have every county memorized, but I know we emailed about it.
Right. So in January, DLS released a report on the local fiscal impact of implementing the blueprint for Maryland's future. And the report is on our website, but it kind of went over what we believe the impacts will be on local governments based on what their appropriation will have to increase by in order to meet the requirements under current. And Montgomery County would be affected in the future by this. I don't have the information right in front of me, but
yeah,
County would be.
I think it wasn't until 2028 that you projected Montgomery County would have to make any changes
right
to account for the blueprint, which I just thought was interesting because of all the things we heard about the unaffordability of the blueprint for us in Montgomery County, and at the state level. It's actually pretty well funded for the next few years at least. So that's a positive.
Correct. Only around a few local school systems will be significantly impacted by the current requirements in the near term. So most jurisdictions are not impacted until later when it's being fully implemented.
Great. I do not see any other questions. Valerie, Hiram, thank you very much for joining us. We appreciate all the information. Have a great weekend.
You're welcome. Goodbye.
Colleagues, we will now turn to our sort of regular legislative business. And I'll just note, if you're not a delegate, if you don't mind turning off your camera, it's going to make it a little bit easier for our council to track all of us, because we're going to have to take some votes, I think. And with that, let me turn it over to Chair Love and the Land Use, Transportation, and Public Safety Committee.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I appreciate that. Sorry for a little bit of background noise. If it bothers folks, let me know and I'll see what I can do to stop it. So we're going to start with MC 322. Actually, it's bothering me. Give me one.
We'll give Chair Love a moment there. Colleagues, while we're waiting for her to return, I'll just note that we've dealt with about 29 bills as a delegation. We may be done with 28 of them today, maybe 29. We'll see how it goes. So we're making a lot of great progress. Welcome back, Chair Love. I was vamping while you were out.
My apologies, Mr. Chair, my apologies. So we're going to start today with MC 322, Speed and School Bus Monitoring Systems. This bill was brought to us by Delegate Moon. It comes from well, I'll read the background. According to a report in February 2020, school buses in Montgomery County were passed in violation of their stop signs between 800 and 1,200 times per day. Maryland law forbids passing a stopped school bus with red lights flashing while traveling in either direction, except in case of oncoming traffic on a divided highway where lanes are separated by a median barrier. Delegate Moon found that a lot of these tickets were issued on multi-lane roads where drivers likely didn't know if they were in the, say, far right lane, that a bus coming in the other direction that was stopped, these drivers didn't know they had to stop. So the bill originally would have required Montgomery County Department of Transportation to construct median dividers at those locations that had at least 1,000 citations issued to drivers who disobeyed bus signals. It addressed cost sharing of the construction of those dividers and a number of other things. The bill, after significant work, has been significantly amended. And now the bill requires Montgomery County to annually compile and make publicly available a report on each school bus stop monitoring system maintained in the county, and to submit the report to certain entities of state and local government, including to us, the Montgomery County Delegation. And the bill specifies that the report must have certain information. The bill passed subcommittee favorable with amendments. So, Mr. Chair, I move the amendment.
Chair Love moves the amendment. Is there a second?
Second.
Delegate Wilkins seconds. Any discussion on the amendment? Okay, I do not see any discussion on the amendment. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Anyone who wants to be recorded in opposition? Does anybody need to abstain because they get a lot of these tickets? Okay, the amendment passes. Chair Love,
I move the bill as amended.
is there a second?
Second.
Chair Love moves the bill. Delegate Barve seconds. Any discussion on the bill as amended? Delegate Moon, sponsor of the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, I just want to make sure everybody understands the context of what the amendments now mean for this bill and why I was drawn to this in the first place. So we've had these school bus cameras for some years now, but we have a fairly interesting, well, not interesting, unfortunate situation where in the opposite lane, so not behind the bus, but cars driving in the opposite direction, if there's a median in the road, don't have to stop, but if there's not a median in the road, do have to stop. So it's a bit of a confusing public education scenario. And I had originally asked if we could use some of those funds to actually construct safer crossings at those places with a high number of infractions. We unfortunately were not able to get on the same page in terms of dedicating funds for that purpose. And so instead, I think this bill now represents a bit of a take it slow approach where it will gather and disseminate data and make sure that that data goes to the Vision Zero coordinators and traffic engineers and MCPS so that collectively everyone can sort of come to good decisions about where to put the school bus stops and where to flag additional signage and improvements. And the bill also contains an uncodified section now where sort of an arrangement to reform some of the aspects of the school bus enforcement program lie. And it includes things like better signage, looking at the stop locations, and making sure that some of the information is going to be in foreign languages. And so I think this is a big step forward, and I just want to commend the MCPD, MCDOT, the Vision Zero folks, and MCPS, and everyone who got behind trying to really take a hard look at using the data to drive safety decisions. So thank you, everyone, and it's a good bill.
Thank you, Delegate Moon. I know you spent a lot of time on it, as did Chair Love and our committee, so thank you all. Any other comments or discussion on the bill as amended? Okay, all in favor of the bill as amended, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye. Want to be recorded in opposition? Does anyone need to abstain? Okay, the bill passes. Chair Love.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We will move to PGMC 10722, Montgomery County Land Use Document Certification. This is the third time we've heard this bill. It was introduced in 2020. It received an unfavorable vote in committee and the full delegation. It was also introduced in 2019, received an unfavorable vote by the delegation, and was withdrawn prior to ENT. So what this bill would do, it requires land use regulations applicable in Montgomery County to require that an application to create a subdivision sign a certificate of penalty, a certification, under penalty of perjury that pertains to restrictions regarding the plat of land in question. So we did a lot of work on this bill, in addition to the years prior where there was a lot of work. We had the hearing, we had work group meetings, many letters and supporting documents from Park and Planning, as well as letters and communications from the sponsor. Park and Planning informed us that there is one land use document currently that they use that has to be signed under penalty of perjury. At Senator Kramer's request, Park and Planning provided all the documents, non-land use documents they use where someone has to sign under penalty of perjury. And in all of those instances, they were personal employee documents such as tax information, medical history, financial data, that sort of stuff. On the other hand, the documents listed in 10722 are documents that the individual signing for might not have that level of personal information. Park and Planning told us for big projects, those documents will likely be signed by the contractor or the architect, but for smaller ones, it might be the homeowner, so they might be caught up in something, penalty of perjury, which has serious consequences, where they didn't realize. In 2021, it was 21% of the permits that were reviewed that were submitted by homeowners. And finally, Park and Planning gave us a thorough description of how they vet these documents to ensure that they are complete and accurate. And so for these reasons, the committee voted unfavorable 5-1. I move the bill unfavorable.
Is there a second?
Second.
Chair Love moves the bill unfavorable. Vice Chair Acevedo seconds. Any discussion on the unfavorable? Okay, colleagues, we're going to do this by roll call. If you like the bill, you want to vote no. Okay, if you like the bill, you want to vote no. Jen from the top, please.
Delegate Acevedo,
Yes.
Delegate Barve,
Yes.
Delegate Carr,
No.
Delegate Charkoudian,
Yes.
Delegate Crutchfield,
Yes, yes is for the bill.
If you like the bill, vote no, Delegate Crutchfield.
Okay, if I like the bill, vote no. No.
Delegate Cullison,
No.
Delegate Foley,
Yes.
Delegate Fraser Hidalgo, Delegate Gilchrist,
Yes.
Delegate Kaiser,
No.
Delegate Kelly, Delegate Lopez,
Yes.
Delegate Love,
Yes.
Delegate Lutke,
Yes.
Delegate Moon,
Yes.
Delegate Polakovich Carr,
Yes.
Delegate Chi,
Yes.
Queen. Oh, sorry.
So the
Delegate-
committee's recommendation would be, I'll be following a yes?
Okay.
Okay.
Yes, Delegate Green.
Yes.
Delegate Resnick,
Yes.
Delegate Shetty,
No.
Delegate Solomon,
Yes.
Delegate Stewart,
No.
Delegate Wilkins,
Yes.
Mr. Chair.
Yes, before you call the vote, did Delegate Fraser Hidalgo's vote get recorded?
No, there was no answer that I heard.
You want to call on him right now?
Sure. Delegate Fraser Hidalgo,
No, thank you very much, Delegate Corman. I heard it. Thank you.
I think you were on mute and maybe frozen.
Can I change my vote?
Delegate Kaiser?
I'd like to change my vote from no to a yes.
Don't forget to put that little yellow slip in.
Thank you. Here we go.
Jen, let us know when you're ready.
17 votes in the nay. 6 votes yay, or excuse me, other way around, 17 yay, 6 nay, several absent. It fails.
Unfavorable on the bill.
It succeeds, the unfavorable succeeds, the bill fails.
Unfavorable on the bill. And so just for everyone's context, the bill will be withdrawn from the standing committee because obviously I got every bill in by yesterday so that no one was held up by any of our work here. It's just going to get more confusing from here, folks. So listen closely. Let me turn it back to Chair Love.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We are now moving to MC 2222 Montgomery County Speed Monitoring Systems, Maryland Route 20. This bill requires the placement and use of at least one speed monitoring system between each exit ramp on the ICC. Based on the number of exit ramps eastbound and westbound, the bill would require the placement of approximately 20 speed monitoring systems. After an extensive amount of work, there were discussions with the sponsor relating to the rules that are in the Environment and Transportation Committee. For those of you who are not on the committee, we receive a lot of speed camera bills, and we have rules that have been created over the years to address this and to ensure there's uniformity and consistency on the placement of speed cameras. There's 6 standards. I'm happy to go through them if people want, but the short answer is that the bill did not comply. The sponsor was not, did not want to amend the bill. So the bill was voted unfavorable 5-1. I move the bill unfavorable, Mr. Chair.
Chair Love moves the bill unfavorable. Is there a second?
Second.
Vice Chair Acevero seconds. Discussion on the unfavorable motion. Delegate Lutke.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you to Chair Love and the members of the committee. I appreciate the hard work that went into this. Thank you also to Senator Kramer, who is a strong advocate for traffic safety on the ICC, which I appreciate. As the members know, I sent around a potential alternative to moving the bill unfavorable yesterday. That alternative is an amendment to the bill that would strike a compromise, establish the bill under the rules that the Environment and Transportation Committee has established to govern these types of programs. And the short version on that, is it okay if I describe the amendment, Mr. Chairman?
Yeah, briefly, and we'll get to a more fulsome discussion shortly, maybe.
Sure. So the amendment reduces the number of cameras, deals with some issues related to the allocation of revenue from the cameras, and sends that revenue to safety improvements, traffic safety and pedestrian safety improvements. So I'm going to be voting against the unfavorable. I'll be voting no on the unfavorable. I'd ask if members of the delegation are willing to give us a shot, those of us from the District 14 and 19 delegations, give us a shot to present that amendment. Then I'd ask you to join us in voting against the unfavorable motion to give us the opportunity to introduce the amendment.
Thank you, Delegate Lutke. Delegate Cullison.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and I want to thank the committee for its work on this bill. I guess I too am going to be voting no because the ICC cuts through District 19. A great deal of District 19. And I have to tell you that even before I was elected, I was hearing about issues on the ICC from the communities that it cuts through. And the issues that they raised with us were only exacerbated as the road has become more and more popular, as it should be, because it is a wonderful cut through the county. So I'm not sure what the rules were that prevented this bill from being seen in a favorable way, but I appreciate the bill and believe that it needs to be, and I'm eager to hear Delegate Lutke's amendment, but as the current recommendation of the committee is, I will be voting no.
Thank you, Delegate Cullison. Delegate Moon.
Thank you, colleagues. Just by way of context for my unfavorable in subcommittee on this bill, the bill came in and it basically wanted to put speed cameras along the entirety of the ICC. And we were talking about potentially doing a pilot or using some data anchors for this. But in that all or nothing approach, and I sort of mentioned at the voting session.
Delegate Moon, can you hear us? Delegate Moon?
Earlier that yeah, sorry, are you having all right, should I move?
We can hear you now.
Okay, great. Sorry, I was in an unstable location. So I was just saying to explain sort of the context from the work session. The bill came in as a sort of an all or nothing, photo enforcement along all of the ICC or not at all. And we were looking at the hope of a pilot or something data-driven to guide forward a policy on this. But with it being an all or nothing bill, I went with a no. But I did have a chance to take a look at the proposed amendment, and I will say I am definitely open to it. As you can see from the school bus bill that we just voted on, one of the things I was trying to do there was to try and instill public confidence in photo enforcement programs by both having responsible use of the revenue and data points to actually drive the decision making. And again, the bill as introduced, I think, did not have those features, but as amended, or as proposed to be amended, I think might. So, Mr. Chair, I'm not sure what procedurally is the correct order of operations, since we have a motion on the table. But I'll just flag it that I was one of the no's, but I'm interested in the amendment.
Yep. So we'll deal with this motion and then we'll, depending on how it goes, move on to the amendment. Delegate Shi.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm just curious. I agree in principle, we need to do something. And I just wonder what either the State Highway Administration or MCDOT propose as solutions instead of, for example, as Delegate Moon said, all or nothing, just the speed cameras, because people, a lot of people hate speed cameras. But like for my neighborhood, there is increasing speed driving, just very fast moving cars as more young people moving into their parents' basement and live together and all of that. We have seen a lot of unruly behaviors. So I'm getting what's called a dynamic speed display sign on Trevella Road instead of speed camera. So people see in real time what they are actually, the speed at which they're driving, and that can deter some behavior instead of getting a ticket. I'm just wondering if those professionals have proposed some alternatives, and I'll be open-minded in terms of listening to the amendments. Thank you.
Yeah, so just for context, it's the Maryland Transportation Authority that actually controls the ICC. It's not Montgomery County DOT or State Highway. Delegate Love, Chair Love, excuse me, did you get any input from MDTA during the bill process?
I personally did not know, but I will say to Delegate Shi, it's interesting that you mentioned the real-time posting, because that is actually one of the standards that we have in environment and transportation. When you are putting in speed cameras, you must have one of those ahead of time. But no, I did not hear directly from them.
Great. Delegate Barbe.
Yeah, I always have to re-educate myself every year as to what our procedures are. I mean, I do like Delegate Lutke's amendment, but I'm going to support the subcommittee and vote for the unfavorable amendment. If that fails, then I'll support Delegate Lutke's amendment. But I apologize for having forgotten what our procedures are after these many years.
No problem. I'm not trying to short circuit the discussion, which is why I haven't sort of explained what I think we're going to do here, but I'll just go ahead and do that now to avoid further confusion. I think we're going to reject, I'll ask people if they're willing to do this by voice vote, the unfavorable. I think at least many members of the committee, including the chair, are understanding of that. And then we'll get to the discussion of the amendment, assuming that occurs. So I think people can feel very comfortable without worrying about what we call on the floor the second reader rule or anything like that in this particular unusual context. And I will just say, that is partly because, the bill sponsor was not interested in the discussions we're having right now, but Delegate Lutke stepped in and was interested, and he is a co-sponsor of the bill. So with that, let me recognize Delegate Resnick.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I actually have a couple questions about the bill or about the concept of the bill itself, not the amendment. Because obviously the ICC is mostly in Montgomery County, but it does take some piece of Prince George's County as well at the very end. And so because it is a bi-county bill, and because it is not only a state road, but it is a state managed road, it's controlled by not MDOT, well, MDOT, but not the Highway Administration, but the Highway Authority. I'm wondering whether or not, because of its unique management, we even have authority to be able to legislate. And because it is a bi-county road, shouldn't this have been a bi-county bill with having Prince George's weigh in as well? So those are my two questions about, I'm open to an amendment, I'm open to the discussion, but I think those are a couple of threshold issues that I need to be educated on.
Love, I don't know if you have a response to that or possibly our council.
I would ask council or possibly the chair of ENT if they want to answer that.
I think Delegate Resnick has a really good point. I didn't even consider that. I drive the road twice a week at least. I think he's absolutely correct.
Council, do you want to address that?
As drafted currently, it requires there to be a memorandum of understanding between Montgomery County and MDTA for the implementation of cameras just in Montgomery County. And so that's where that goes. And so it's also very limited in scope. It is limited to Montgomery County. So it's requiring interaction with the overall state agency and also limited to Montgomery County.
So just for my clarity, council, the ICC has exits and off ramps and on ramps in Prince George's County, but the bill has introduced the cameras would not have been applied at those off ramps and on ramps.
No, it's by agreement specifically with the county and for the county.
But also as a follow-up on that second piece that you mentioned, whatever we do has to have a memorandum of understanding with MDTA, right? We can't just legislate it. We can really just authorize and then have the county work it out. Okay, all right.
You good, Delegate Resnick? Okay.
Yes, I'm good. And I think that's part of, I think Delegate Lutke's amendment alludes to that as well. So I think it makes it much more feasible because frankly, the current bill as stands, I just don't know if it's legal, whether or not we want to do it.
You should have seen the first draft. Vice Chair Cart.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm not sure who can answer this question, but someone correct me if I'm wrong. The ICC is the vast majority of the road is in Montgomery County, and there's just a small portion of it that's in Prince George's County. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct. May I, Mr. Chairman?
Please.
That it's correct that very small portion of it is in Prince George's County, but it's a really important small portion because if you want to go to Baltimore or Prince George's County or Annapolis, you have to go through that portion. So yeah, it's only one small little portion, but it's super important.
Vice Chair Carr, you good? Okay, so just a reminder, the motion before us, which I'm hoping to do by voice vote to keep this conversation going, is to vote no, is on the unfavorable. If you want to end the debate, vote yes. If you want to hear more from our majority leader, vote no. All in favor of the unfavorable motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Signify by saying no.
No.
No one need to abstain. Great. The unfavorable motion fails. The bill is before us. Delegate Lutke.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So I'd like to offer the amendment. The amendment number is 556714. Whoever wants to say amendment number 1, go right ahead.
Amendment number 1.
The amendment does a number of things, again, with the goal of conforming to the Environment and Transportation Committee's guidelines on these types of bills. And first of all, the idea of putting cameras through this type of MOU agreement on state roads is not a new one. There are 2 other highways in the state where this has been done. But the Environment and Transportation Committee has, to their credit, really thought deeply about sort of the circumstances under which they're comfortable with the cameras being placed on these types of roads. And the first, as it should be, the first of the requirements that they have is that the sponsor of the bill needs to show that there really is evidence of traffic safety issues. So I would tell you, I mean, anecdotally, as Delegate Cullison pointed out, we've been hearing from constituents for years now about these traffic safety issues, but I also looked up some numbers. So the ICC makes up about 0.3% of the lane miles of roads in Montgomery County and accounts for almost 1.5% of the fatal accidents on roads in Montgomery County. So you're talking about almost a 500% sort of, the right word is not overattainment, but that's what we're talking about, right? And so that I believe there is strong evidence that we need traffic safety measures. The District 14 and 19 delegations have for years been working with the MDTA police to try to support them in their enforcement efforts on the ICC. One of the challenges that they have, frankly, is that some folks that are speeding to such an extent that it becomes dangerous to follow them or difficult, particularly in the case of folks who are racing motorcycles on the ICC. So I believe that there is a traffic safety issue here. Now, the remainder of the ENT committee's guidelines are embodied in the amendment. So first of all, the bill as introduced would require the placement of cameras. This amendment, as it should, authorizes. It reduces the number of cameras that would be authorized to 2 cameras. Those cameras would be placed at the locations with the highest number of traffic accidents along the route as determined by the Maryland Transportation Authority. The ENT committee's guidelines include a provision requiring that the money has to be something more than just a general revenue stream for local government. So the amendment specifically requires that any revenue over and above the cost of operating the systems has to go to traffic safety and pedestrian and bicycle safety improvements around the on and off ramps of the ICC. And this is important for those of you who've been tracking the ICC issue for a long time, the potential for new pedestrian and bicycle facilities along the ICC. When the ICC was built, there was a promise made that there would be a bike path along the length, and portions of it have never been built out. So to the extent that there would be significant revenue, that would be an option here. And then further, it would require that around the signs there be a device that allows drivers to see their real-time speed as essentially a warning, a notification, and it establishes a 5-year sunset, effectively making this a pilot program. So I did my best in the amendment to draft it to the ENT committee specifications, and I would move the amendment.
A second on the amendment?
Second.
Great. The amendment's been moved and seconded. Delegate discussion, Delegate Barbe.
Yeah, I'm going to support the amendment and the bill, but I will just to let everybody know, I think Delegate Resnick brings up an important point, and I'm going to investigate that when it gets to my committee. So that's it. I'm going to support the amendment and the bill. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Delegate Barbe. Delegate Shetty.
Sorry. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, Majority Leader, for this amendment. I think it's really comprehensive and addresses a lot of really important concerns when it comes to placement of speed cameras in general, which I am all in favor of, especially when they are data driven and placed along areas that have high accident rates. So thank you for that. My question is a slightly wonky procurement related one. Sorry for putting you on the spot with this one, and you may or may not know, but Montgomery County has, a fairly limited number of speed cameras, and it's a contractual arrangement with their speed camera vendors. And that has actually caused in the past a lot of challenges with the placement of them because it's a sort of scarce resource. And I think they're in the process of renegotiating that contract. I have no idea where it is in the process. I haven't followed it that closely, but I just kind of have a question around, since this is a state managed road, whether the allotment of the 2 cameras would come from whatever contract the state has, or if it would come from the counties. a super random wonky question. It's okay if you don't know the answer.
Sponsor the amendment.
I believe that as the bill would be amended, it would be county cameras, but they would be run under an MOU with the MDTA. But it's a really good question. I'm going to give a call to the county's procurement officer and see if I
Oh,
can-
he won't. No, don't do that. I could just ask him when he gets back from his haircut. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Delegate.
Ain't nothing but a family thing. Delegate Love, Chair Love.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And thank you to Delegate Lutke for all of his work on this amendment. It is, he did a lot of work and he really worked hard to follow the committee guidelines. This is, I would say, 90% of what both I and the subcommittee chair in E&T on the Motor Vehicle and Transportation Committee had tried to encourage the sponsor to do. I just wanted to let folks know that I will be voting against this. And I may change my voting committee depending on what happens, but I wanted to let you know why. And that is because when we get these bills, we want to know the hazardous condition that we are addressing when we get them. We don't have that information right now. And so if we get this information, then I will be much more comfortable with this bill. But without that information, I'm not there yet. But I do want to emphasize yet and thank Delegate Lutke for all of his work on this. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair Love. Delegate Stewart.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, I just want to again express my gratitude to Delegate Lutke for the original sponsor of the bill and to the subcommittee for all the work everyone's collectively put on this. I mean, Delegate Lutke and Delegate Collison are exactly correct that for folks whose districts touch the ICC, this is one of the top constituent concerns that we hear week after week, year after year. And the reason is because you can probably spend 5 minutes either, walking nearby or driving on the ICC before you see someone who is not just sort of barely exceeding the speed limit, but someone who is flagrantly and intentionally going upwards of 20 or even 30 miles over the speed limit. Folks have died. Folks, if we don't act, will continue to die. And I just want to make a quick point that we sometimes lost in all this discussion, which is that speed cameras work. If you Google the studies around this, there have been, for the last 10 or 15 years, a number of empirical studies done of other jurisdictions that have speed cameras, and they consistently find reductions of both crashes and injuries from around the range of 40 to 60%. So I think this is a great amendment. I think as amended, it's a great bill. I look forward to voting for both the amendment and the bill, and I look forward to this delegation and eventually the General Assembly taking a huge step forward here to save lives.
Thank you, Delegate Stewart. Delegate Frazier-Dago.
Yeah, this is a really complicated issue. It has like a lot of requirements that we've set out that we want to meet when we put in speed cameras. Like Delegate Love said, I don't know that I am 100% there yet, but I will say that in our committee, we have fought very hard to get speed cameras for Baltimore City on I-83. We fought very hard to get speed cameras for Prince George's County on Indian Head Highway. And while I may or may not be there at the end or may not be there yet, I'm going to do what I can to fight to get something done to address the hazardous issues on the ICC. We might not have all the facts yet, but I'm going to work to try and get as many facts as I possibly can. So I'll be supporting it. Thank you.
Thank you, Delegate Frazier-Dago. Delegate Solomon first.
Oh, thank you, Mr. Chair. I just had two somewhat basic questions, perhaps. Delegate Lutke, thank you for pulling this together. I'm assuming, because this authorizes it, in the conversations with MDTA, assuming this bill were to pass, are they interested? Do you have a somewhat firm commitment from them to implementing this?
I think they would be. I think the issue is the MOU and what exactly is in the MOU. I think it's hard to say for sure until they know exactly what the agreement would be with Montgomery County.
Okay, and then the other question. I'm assuming, does this also, we've studied more of the speed camera issues on sort of local roads. On a highway, is it the same premise? If you're 12 miles over the speed limit, it would trigger the camera? Or is there a different criteria for highways?
No, that's my understanding.
Okay, thank you.
Delegate Barbe.
Yeah, I forgot to mention that obviously the legal counsel for my committee is going to look at this amendment and see if it, conforms. And if it doesn't, if there's a tweak that's needed, then we'll make that tweak and run it by the delegation. I do want to say, as a matter of public policy, it's not correct to compare the accident rate of a highway to all the roads in Montgomery County. A more apt comparison would be accident rates on Route 200 versus Route 50 or 270. And so I just wanted to say that, put that into the record.
Great, thank you, Delegate Barbe. I do not see anybody else's hand raised, so let me just remind my colleagues that your camera has to be on to vote. Up, Delegate Kaiser.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Earlier, I heard someone's concern that in doing this on the ICC, because it goes into Prince George's County, but I presume on the stretch of Route 355 with its many, many names, that we have at least one speed camera, and that obviously goes into another county. So clearly there are those things are already dealt with in law.
Thank you, Delegate Kaiser. I do not see any other comments. So one more reminder that in order to vote, your camera needs to be on. And we will take a roll call vote on the amendments. So we're voting on the Lutke amendment. Council?
Delegate Sabero.
Yes.
Delegate Barbe.
Yes.
Delegate Carr.
Yes.
Delegate Tarkoudian.
Yes.
Delegate Crutchfield.
Yes.
Delegate Cullison.
Yes.
Delegate Foley.
Yes.
Delegate Fraser Hidalgo.
Yes.
Delegate Gilchrist.
Yes.
Delegate Kaiser.
Yes.
Delegate Lopez. Pardon?
Yes.
Sorry. Delegate Love.
No.
Delegate Lutke.
Yes.
Delegate Moon.
Yes.
Delegate Polakovich Carr.
Yes.
Delegate Chi.
Yes.
Delegate Queen.
Yes.
Delegate Resnick.
Yes.
Delegate Shetty.
Yes.
Delegate Solomon.
Yes.
Delegate Stewart.
Yes.
Delegate Wilkins.
Yes.
Mr. Chair.
Yes.
22 votes in the affirmative, 1 in the negative, and 1 absent. Motion carries.
Thank you again, Delegate Lutke.
I move the bill favorable as amended.
Second.
Great. The Delegate Lutke moves the bill. Delegate Acevero seconds. Any discussion on the bill as amended? Okay, all in favor of the bill as amended, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anybody want to be recorded in the negative?
That would be me.
Well,
Not yet. Not yet. Can I be recorded as almost?
negative for now.
We should add a not yet option to the voting list.
Does anybody need to abstain? Okay. Well, thank you, colleagues, for working through that. I thought that was a really good discussion and a positive outcome. Although our bill drawer is currently empty, there's at least one late filed bill floating around out there that we may have to deal with. And we also have previously scheduled briefings for next week with Montgomery College and Park and Planning that I'm hoping we can still make time to attend. Unfortunately, those were two groups we had to cancel last year when we sort of finished our work. So I think we're going to keep those on the books, and hopefully you can block out some time next Friday morning. Delegate Love.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just wanted to do a public shout out and thank my committee for all the great work, all the great conversations, all the great patience. You all are wonderful. Thank you very much.
Great. Now that goes for all the committees, but today we'll credit the Land Use Committee. So thank you. And thank you to Chair Love and Chair Shetty and Chair Carr and Chair Chi for all the work getting us through so many bills in such an efficient, collaborative manner over these first few weeks of session, which clears up a lot of time for many of the other things we have to do. Let me recognize Delegate Lutke.
And because you can't thank yourself, I think we also need to thank you as delegation chair and Vice Chair Carr for the extraordinary job you guys have been doing leading the delegation this session.
Thank you, Delegate Lutke. I appreciate it. Any other questions or comments before we go? Okay, well, everybody have a great weekend. I think with that, we are adjourned.